The courtroom was in absolute silence when a soft but firm voice echoed through the chamber. 17 years, said the prisoner's daughter. Every eye turned to the young girl, only 15 years old, standing in the front row, staring at the judge with tears in her eyes. No one had expected such a scene. The verdict had just been read. João Marcos da Silva, 42, a construction worker, had been sentenced to 17 years in prison for a heinous crime. Armed robbery followed by attempted murder. But something about that sentence didn't feel right to the teenager, who had followed the case with more attention than most of the adults present. Her name was Ana Luisa, the only daughter of João Marcos. Her brown hair was tied back in a makeshift bun, and her trembling hands clutched a worn-out school folder. The judge, surprised by the interruption, removed his glasses and looked at her with stern seriousness. "Young lady, this court has already given its verdict. It is not your place to contest the sentence. This is a serious process, based on evidence and testimony." Anna did not let herself be intimidated. She stepped forward, her heart pounding unevenly. "With all due respect, Your Honor, but the evidence presented doesn't tell the whole truth. And if no one else has the courage to say it, then I will, because I know my father is not guilty." The audience stirred with murmurs. Journalists lifted their cameras, lawyers exchanged tense glances. The prosecutor, Dr. Gustavo Prado, 50, known for his rigidity and his reputation for never losing a case, immediately stood up. "Your Honor, we cannot allow a teenager to turn this courtroom into a stage for sentimental outbursts. The defendant was tried according to the law. If there are appeals, they must be filed by the defense, not by a minor." But before the judge could respond, Anna opened her folder and held up some papers. "I'm not here to cry, sir. I'm here to show what nobody wanted to see. What I brought is proof that my father could not have committed this crime." A heavy silence fell over the room. The defense attorney, Dr. Ricardo Menezes, who had been struggling to sustain João's innocence against overwhelming evidence, widened his eyes in shock. Even the defendant himself, handcuffed and slumped on the bench, raised his head, incredulous at his daughter's boldness. "Bring those documents here," ordered the judge, still skeptical but unable to ignore the girl's determination. With firm steps, though her legs trembled, Anna walked to the stand. She handed the papers to the court officer, who delivered them to the magistrate. The judge flipped through them quickly and frowned. They were electronic time card records from a logistics company where João had worked temporarily as a driver. The documents indicated that on the night of the crime, João was actively transporting goods in another city, nearly 200 kilometers away from where the robbery took place. "Where did you get this, young lady?" asked the judge, raising his eyebrows. "I got them at the company where my father worked. I knew he had done that job, but nobody in the defense looked for these records, and the prosecution never mentioned them. I went there myself, asked the manager, and brought the copies. They confirmed he was on the road that night." The defense attorney covered his face with his hand, ashamed he hadn't sought that evidence earlier. The prosecutor, nervous, tried to intervene. "This could easily be forged, Your Honor. We cannot accept documents brought in by a teenager as reliable proof without forensic analysis." But Anna did not back down. "It's not forged. It has the supervisor's signature, the company stamp, everything. If you don't believe me, call the manager here. He'll confirm it." The judge demanded silence once more. "Court officer, register this material and send it for immediate forensic examination, and summon the company's manager to testify." The audience erupted into whispers. In a matter of minutes, the prisoner's daughter had turned the trial upside down. João Marcos couldn't hold back his tears. He looked at his daughter with a mixture of pride and desperation. "Anna, my daughter," he murmured, his voice breaking. Realizing the seriousness of the matter, the judge temporarily suspended the session. "We will reconvene in 48 hours after an initial review of these documents. Until then, the defendant remains in custody. Miss Anna, I advise caution, but I must acknowledge that what you brought today may change the course of this case." Outside the courtroom, reporters swarmed the girl. "Aren't you afraid of confronting the prosecution like this? What makes you so sure of your father's innocence?" Anna answered firmly, though her eyes were still wet with tears. "It's not blind certainty, it's the truth. I know my father, and now I have proof that he wasn't where they said he was." The following days were tense. The media covered every detail of the case. For many, Anna had become a symbol of courage, standing up to the justice system in defense of her father. For others, she was just a naive teenager driven by emotion. When the session resumed, the atmosphere was even heavier. The logistics company manager was called to testify. Under oath, he confirmed, "Yes, Mr. João Marcos worked with us that night. He transported cargo leaving Campinas at 8 p.m. and arriving in Ribeirão Preto around 11 p.m. I personally logged his departure in the system." The prosecution tried to argue that João could have abandoned the truck, committed the crime, and returned. But the GPS records presented by the manager showed that the truck was in continuous movement along the route without detours at the same time the robbery occurred in São Paulo. The courtroom fell into astonishment. The main accusation against João was collapsing under the weight of hard evidence. The judge looked seriously at the prosecutor. "Dr. Gustavo, in light of what has been presented, how do you intend to sustain the accusation that the defendant was at the crime scene?" The prosecutor, sweating, replied, "We still have eyewitnesses, Your Honor. 3 people claim to have seen João at the scene." Anna stood up again. "Excuse me, but I investigated that too. The descriptions those witnesses gave were of a tall, thin man with a tattoo on his right arm. My father has no tattoos and is stocky. The only resemblance is his shaved head. There are thousands of men like that." The defense attorney, now emboldened, added, "Exactly, Your Honor. This case was conducted while ignoring basic facts. My client is here condemned because of physical resemblance, when there is concrete proof that he was elsewhere." The judge let out a deep sigh, shaking his head. The case, once thought settled, was now in shambles. No one had expected the defendant's daughter to turn the tables. João, overcome with emotion, looked at his daughter with tears streaming down his face. "You are my strength, daughter. You're giving me my life back." The audience, moved, couldn't contain their applause. The judge struck the gavel for order, but even he seemed touched by the teenager's determination. And there, in the heart of the courtroom, Anna proved that she was not just a desperate daughter. She was someone capable of standing against an entire system in pursuit of the truth. The trial wasn't over yet, but everyone knew nothing would ever be the same. And the silence that once again filled the room only made it clear that this was just the beginning of an even greater battle.
Judge Antonio Martins had suspended the previous session with the promise of analysing every detail of the new evidence presented by young Ana Luisa. But that morning, the courtroom was even more crowded. Journalists, onlookers, and even lawyers from unrelated cases packed the room. It was as if everyone wanted to witness firsthand what the press had already dubbed the trial turned by the daughter. Anna entered accompanied by her mother, Mrs. Helena, walking with her head held high, though, inside, her heart was racing. She was still just a teenager, but her posture radiated a maturity that surprised even the most skeptical. Her father, João Marcos, was brought in by officers, handcuffed, eyes downcast. When he spotted his daughter in the front row, he managed a faint smile. That girl had become his only hope. The judge began the session. "We are here to continue the trial of the defendant João Marcos da Silva, following the presentation of new evidence by Ms. Ana Luisa. Yesterday we received documents and testimony from a company manager confirming the defendant's presence in another location on the night of the crime. Today we proceed with witness hearings and technical review of the material." Prosecutor Gustavo Prado immediately stood, trying to regain the control he had lost. "Your Honor, even if there are work records, we cannot fully rule out the possibility of manipulation or the involvement of accomplices. We have eyewitnesses who swear they saw him at the crime scene. These people deserve to be heard." The judge nodded. "Call the first witness." A middle-aged man, Mr. Rogério, stepped to the stand. He looked toward João and declared firmly, "I saw this man. He was there, near the bakery, holding a gun. I cannot be mistaken." Anna, restless, asked to speak. The judge hesitated but allowed it. "Excuse me, Mr. Rogério, could you describe the man you saw?" The man cleared his throat. "He was bald, strong, wearing a dark jacket." Anna pulled a photograph from her folder. "This is my father, taken the same week as the crime. He wasn't bald, his head was closely shaved, but not bared. Also, on the day of the crime, he wore his logistics company uniform with the logo on it. Did you see that uniform? The man faltered. I don't remember the clothes, only the face and the gun. The defense attorney seized on the hesitation. Your Honor, the witness himself admits he cannot recall essential details. Moreover, the GPS and timecard records place my client miles away. The audience murmured. The prosecutor attempted to sustain his case by calling 2 more witnesses. An elderly woman, Mrs. Marta, repeated the same vague description. A young man, Vinicius, claimed to be certain it was Joel, but stammered when Anna pressed him about the tattoo on the arm he said he had seen. My father has no tattoo whatsoever, Anna declared, raising her father's handcuffed arms to show the unmarked skin. This only proves there was a case of mistaken identity. The judge glanced at the prosecutor, who was beginning to lose his composure. Dr. Gustavo, the consistency of these witnesses is, at the very least, questionable, and with the material evidence we have received, the situation becomes complicated. But Anna was not finished. Your Honor, I have something more. She pulled a flash drive from her folder. It's surveillance footage from a gas station in Ribeirão Preto, taken at the same hour the crime was happening in São Paulo. My father is seen refueling the truck. A wave of murmurs swept through the courtroom. The judge ordered the video to be played on the screen. The footage clearly showed João Marcos stepping out of the truck, speaking with the attendant, and even signing a receipt. The timestamp matched the exact moment the robbery was taking place miles away. The courtroom erupted with exclamations. Defense attorney Daniel jumped up, elated. Your Honor, this is the definitive proof. How could the defendant be in 2 places at once? It's impossible. The prosecutor had gone pale, running out of arguments. He tried one last attempt. Still, Your Honor, the crime was committed by someone very similar to him. We cannot rule out indirect involvement. Anna took a deep breath and faced the prosecutor. With all due respect, sir, you want to convict an innocent man simply because he resembles the real criminal. But I found something that may explain where this confusion came from. Everyone leaned forward, listening intently. Anna opened another folder of documents. While researching in local newspapers, I found records of another man named Renato Farias. He was arrested 2 years ago for robberies in the same region. He is bald, has a similar build, and a tattoo on his right arm. Look at his photo. The judge received the image and compared it. The resemblance was striking. The audience murmured in shock. Even the defense attorney was momentarily speechless. Your Honor, Anna said firmly, I believe this man, not my father, is the real perpetrator. The witnesses confused them because from a distance they look alike. But the difference lies in the details, and my father cannot pay the price for mistaken identity. The judge took a deep breath. Your Honor, the court does not work with speculation, but what you have presented raises serious doubts about the validity of this conviction. I request that the prosecution immediately investigate this Mr. Renato Farias. Until then, we cannot uphold the sentence imposed. The prosecutor lowered his head defeated. The judge struck the gavel. The previous sentence is hereby suspended. The defendant João Marcos da Silva will be released on parole until the facts are fully clarified. The courtroom erupted in applause. João wept uncontrollably, embracing his daughter with his still cuffed hands. You saved me, Anna. You saved me. Journalists rushed toward the girl, asking how she had gathered so much evidence. Anna replied simply, I only looked for the truth. I couldn't accept that my father would be condemned for something he didn't do. In the days that followed, the case reverberated across the country. The image of the teenager who stood up to the prosecution with documents and video footage went viral. Headlines read, The Daughter Who Turned the Trial. The investigation into Renato Farias advanced quickly. He had been released early for good behavior months earlier and was living in the same area where the crime occurred. When witnesses were shown his photo, they confirmed he was the man at the robbery, not Joel. A week later, Renato was taken into custody. The final proof came when the weapon used in the crime was found in a hideout linked to him.
The case against João Marcos was